but please try to be silent.
Jnanandamayam Devam Nirmalaspadikakritim Adharam Sarvavidyanam Hayagrivamupaस्महे Tvameva mata cha pita Tvameva bandhuscha sakha Tvameva vidya dravinam Tvameva sarvam Mama deva deva Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Maruta Stulvati Divyai Savai Vedai Sangha Padakramopanishadai Gayantiyam Samaga Dhyanavastita Tadgadena Manasa Pashyantiyam Yoginah Yasyantam Naviduhu Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namah Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwarah Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurave Sarvalokanam Vishaje Bhavaroginam Nidaye Sarvavidyanam Dakshina Mutaye Namah Manikya Veena Upalalayanti Madalasa Manjula Vakvilasa Mahendra Niladyuti Komalangi Matanga Kanya Manasa Smarami Chadurbhuje Chandrakalabatamse Kuchonate Kumkumaragashone Kundrekshu Pashankusha Pushpabanahaste Namaste Jagadegamatah Sura Sura Sevita Pada Pankaja Kare Viraja Kamaniya Pustaka Virinchi Patni Kamalasanastita Saraswati Nritya Tuvachi Me Sada Krida Graham Laditalasya Gatikramanam Vidyalayam Vimalagana-rasanuganam Patram Karindra Vajasa Mahitam Kalanam Kshetram Jagastu Jagadam शुभदानदक्षम् जयतु जयतु नित्यम् न कलाक्षेत्रमेधद जयतु जयतु नित्यम् तत्र लक्ष्मी समग्र जयतु जयतु लोके तस्य कीर्तिर्विशाला जयतु जयतु वर्षम् भारतं न पवित्रम् अर्हतो समासम्बुद्धस्स नमो तस्स भगवतो अर्हतो समासम्बुद्धस्स नमो तस्स भगवतो अर्हतो समासम्बुद्धस्स बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धर्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि द्वितीयंपि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि द्वितीयंपि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि द्वितीयंपि संघं शरणं गच्छामि तृतीयंपि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि तृतीयंपि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि तृतीयंपि संघं शरणं गच्छामि पाणातिपाता वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समादयामि आदिन्नादाना वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समादयामि कामेषु मिच्छाचारा वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समादयामि मूसावादा वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समादयामि सुरामेरे मज्जुमादत्ताना वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समादयामि
O Lord, Thou hast created man to be immortal and made him to be an image of Thine own eternity. Yet often we forget the glory of our heritage and wander from the path that leads to righteousness. But Thou, O Lord, hast made us for Thyself, and our hearts are ever restless, till they find their rest in Thee. Look with the eyes of Thy love upon our manifold imperfections, and pardon all our shortcomings, that we may be filled with the brightness of everlasting light, and become the unspotted mirror of Thy power, and the image of Thy goodness, through Christ our Lord. Amen. Bismillah. Ir-Rahman, Ir-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahman, Ir-Rahim. Malik Yamuddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alaihim. Ghayril maghdubi alaihim waladdallin. Amen. एक ओंकार सतनाम करता पुरुष निर्भव निर्वैर अकाल मूर्ति अजूनी सैबत गुरु प्रसादी जप आदि सच जुगादि सच है भी सच नानक होसी भी सच. A universal prayer which you may follow, please. O hidden life vibrant in every atom,
O hidden life vibrant in every atom,
O hidden light shining in every creature,
O hidden light shining in every creature,
O hidden love embracing all in oneness,
O hidden love embracing all in oneness,
may each who feels himself as one with Thee,
may each who feels himself as one with Thee,
know he is therefore one with every other.
know he is therefore one with every other.
Lynn Lawrence, Executive Director of AMI, Aruna Roy, who brings a wealth of ideas and experiences to us, Dr. Silvana Montanaro and Mrs. Hila Patel, beloved and senior members of the AMI community, Alexandra Henny from the Montessori family, dignitaries from the Montessori community, delegates assembled here from far and wide, distinguished guests and friends. On behalf of the organizing committee of the 26th International Montessori Congress, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all here this evening. When we first decided on the theme of sadhana for the Congress, little did we realize the extent to which it would permeate and almost take over our lives. What started as a shared dream between a few people of the Congress committee soon became a shared vision as more and more volunteers came on board to piece together the various aspects of organizing this event. We hope that this spirit of camaraderie and enthusiasm will be present in all the discussions and activities over the next few days here. We hope that all of you find this experience both memorable and thought-provoking. When we planned this Congress, we wanted to make it a time for reflection, a time for unhurried thought, and we believe that the fruits of such pure reflection will have a certain freshness. The program that we have woven together is intended to achieve just that. You may have noticed the selection of speakers and topics for both the plenary and breakout session straddles both the Montessori approach and other ideologies, many of them with a strong cultural grounding. There will be opportunity to learn from others and share with them our philosophy. This is the first International Montessori Congress to be held in India, and we hope that the energies that it will generate will herald the dawn of a new era for Montessorians in India. I would now like to introduce to you Mrs. Lakshmi Krishnakumar, AMI trainer based in Hyderabad. Once again, a warm welcome to you all and a very happy new year. Lakshmi.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Shirley Kuti has already introduced me, I'm Lakshmi Krishnakumar, the AMI trainer from Hyderabad. I would also like to join her to welcome you to this August inauguration function of the 26th International Montessori Conference. I shall be introducing the speakers of the inaugural function for this evening. But before I do this, I would like to take the opportunity to welcome you all once again for this event that's being held in this pristine environment of Kalakshetra. This wonderful congregation of audience includes Montessorians, parents, teachers, and others who experience a grave concern for the future of the child and that of the society. It is the urgency of having to introspect and reflect our deep love and concern and commitment for the child that has made us place aside our other responsibilities and gravitate here. The main thrust is on the preparation of oneself as befitting educators before assuming the role with full enthusiasm and eloquence. The preparation or the total transformation has to be appropriate to the absolute, novel, authentic, and impeccable education system that Dr. Montessori has offered to the world on a silver platter. Almost 70 years after Dr. Montessori had stepped on the soil of India, we are celebrating once again Montessori in India. This evening and the coming 3 days, we present experienced and exceptionally humane speakers representing a wide spectrum of the society, enlightening us and helping us with the efficacy of reflective and retrospective sadhana. It's my privilege to introduce Mr. Andre Robert Freud, the president of the Association of Montessori Internationale. Mr. Andre Robert Freud, a Belgian national, was the UNICEF Deputy Executive Director for Program and Strategic Planning until his retirement in 2003. He was responsible for the formulation and implementation of the UNICEF strategic objectives and programs. From 1974 to 1996, he served as a UNICEF field officer and representative in a variety of countries, including Congo, Yemen, Jordan, Lebanon, Iran, and Mali. He was particularly involved in the development and implementation of programs for children in extremely difficult circumstances like the civil war in Lebanon and the unrest in West Bank and Gaza. the aftermath of the genocide in Rwanda. From 1996 to 1999, as director of the UNICEF office in Geneva, he was in charge of the coordination with the main humanitarian agencies. I now welcome Mr. Andrew Robert Freud to the stage, who will open the Congress proceedings with a presidential address, and I request Amukta to garland him. Yes, Mr. Andrew Robert Freud.
Thank you very much. Friends, I think we are living a very important and exciting moment. As it was just mentioned, this is the first time that the Montessori movement is gathered in India. And it's a very important moment. I think India itself is going through a period of rapid changes, and at the same time remains the place where the values on which human life can flourish are maintained. I think, reflecting on the theme of the Congress, this word sadhana that is so difficult for us Westerners to grasp, it told me that, looking at the way India is moving now, that in a way India is trying to practice a reflective change while keeping the values on which spontaneity can be based. That's one approach to the word sadhana. I'll try another one later on. I think it's a very rich concept. So it is very important for the symbol for us, but also for the energy that we hope to take away from here when we will leave this place. Because it's also true that the Montessori movement is going through a very important moment of change, moment of grasping the true meaning of its value. We started, I think, at a Congress we had in Sydney 4 years ago, and followed by the celebration of our first centenary, to rediscover loudly the real centrality of the child. That it is the child that is the builder of the future, and that our role to play is the one of a capacitator who can give to the children the conditions that will allow them to play their future role. And we have realized that in our classes, in our Montessori environment, that is actually happening, that the children discover themselves through their own actions, through their own reactions to the environment. They do discover that they can and will and enjoy mastering the future. In a way, we have discovered that it is what is happening in the classes in the early years that is the condition of a better future. It is not what is happening in the diplomatic conferences. Now, we live also at a time when the world is full of questions, anxieties, troubles, conflicts. We are at a time where the main systems on which we were thinking that we could build a future have or are failing. The complete socialization at the expenses of individual life has failed 20 years ago. The complete individualism based on building more possession, is failing right now in front of us. It's interesting to see that these two systems, who were supposed to be antagonists, are practically, historically speaking, failing at the same time. And both were based on what I think is the false concept that social success is based on possession of material goods. So, time has come, it seems to me, to look for a more holistic approach to the future of human beings. To consider that human beings have material needs in order to be able to develop their talents and tendencies for spiritual, artistic, intellectual capacities. The material needs are just requirements to allow the development of the true personalities. And our observation since 100 years around the world in many different countries and continents, our observation is that this capacity to realize that a human being has more than material needs is clearly happening in our classes. All of you who have been in Montessori classes realizes that children, they're not driven by fear or envy. They're driven by curiosity. They have the will to explore. They have the ability to question. They do that quite naturally. They have joy and to discover the unknown in particular, and the pleasure to encounter others. All these abilities that our children have, unfortunately, our societies have for too many centuries done their best to destroy them, in such a way that in many situations, when the children reach their teenage, they have lost these talents. And that is what the Montessori approach, when well done, can preserve and further develop. This is creating a young adult who not only has kept his talent, but who has developed a self-confidence that is, and it's very important, that is an open self-confidence, not threatening, but opening up to others. The opposite of arrogance, not the arrogance of the one who claims to know, but the confidence of the ones who knows that together we'll do better in adding up to each other the talents of the other. In a way, and that brings me back to sadhana, I think that the child practiced naturally that concept of sort of acting and reacting spontaneously to the environment, but immediately reflecting whenever there is an interaction with it. So preserving that capacity to be spontaneous and at the same time able to reflect on it in order to make it available to others and to increase his own values and capacities. So I believe that this meeting that we are starting here in Chennai will be a historical moment for the Montessori movement, and I hope for the world of education. We know from our experience, and you know, particularly here in India, that changes are difficult times, are times when we have to reflect twice before moving ahead. And we know that if we are able to provide our children with that capacity to develop their own talents, we'll give them a chance. The future depends on the success of our children. If we succeed, if they succeed, then the world can become a better place to live in. If they don't, could become a field of nuclear waste. That is the challenge we have. It is not up to us, it is up to our children to meet the challenge, but it is up to us to give them the chances to do it well. So that's where we are here for these few days, and I'm sure that the reflections that will come out of all our discussions will be very useful, and I thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Andre. And before I introduce the next speaker, may I humbly request everybody to kindly switch off the cell phones, today and the rest of the days of the Congress, please. Thank you. I think the next speaker, Aruna Rai. And Aruna Rai is a recipient of the Raman Magsaysay Award, valued as the Asian Nobel Prize for Community Leadership and International Understanding. Aruna Rai was an IAS officer until 1974. She resigned from the IAS to join the Social Work and Research Center in Tilonia, Rajasthan. She worked at the SWRC until 1983 and then moved to Devdundri in 1990 and set up the Mazdoor Kisan Shakti Sangatana, a group which is working example of a transparent organization. She is a strong supporter of the movement for right to information, which has succeeded in getting the Rajasthan Right to Information Bill passed. We are fortunate that Ms. Aruna Roy could join us here this evening and deliver the keynote address on education as sadhana. Ms. Aruna Roy, I'll welcome you to the stage, please.
Friends, for me, today is a very strong emotional moment because 50 years ago, I was a student in Kalakshetra. My father had been to Shantiniketan in 1920, and when I was a young girl of 9 or 8, he sent me from Delhi, where we used to stay, to study dancing and go to the Besant Theosophical High School, where I studied for 2 years. For me, therefore, in a way, I've come back to say thank you to those 2 marvelous years, which have laid the foundation of many things I've done subsequently, which opened my mind to a number of issues, also made me critical of some things, because I think the right to question, the right to doubt, which Krishnamurti so often talks about, is a very important part of all learning. And I think whatever I've done in my life, fighting for poor people's rights to employment, fighting for the right to know what the government does in our name, fighting against corruption, living with people of different sorts, not closing my mind to differences. I think I owe a lot to Kalakshetra and the Besant School. When I was 9, I heard the name of Maria Montessori for the first time, when I came as a student to learn dancing and go to school in Kalakshetra. Subsequently, of course, I know much more about her. Today, as I stand here, I think of her not merely as an educationist. I think of her as a very courageous woman who was the first woman doctor in Italy, was the first woman to talk about equal wages and equal pay. She was, in my mind, a woman who also thought about women's empowerment. Change comes only when you think holistically. Change does not come when you think with narrow domestic walls, which Rabindranath Tagore talked about so powerfully in Gitanjali. We have to understand, I think, all of us through our lives, the way we live them, that education is an extremely large and all-encompassing process in which we school, in which we go to trainings, in which we go to formal education, in which we learn from through innumerable frameworks and innumerable ways. For me, you could ask me what fighting on the streets of India for a right to information would have to do with being in Kalakshetra for 2 years, learning the Natya Shastra, or listening to M.D. Ramanathan sing, or to seeing Atte and talking to Rukmani Devi. What would it have to do with what I'm doing today? But to me, it has a lot to do. Because what it really does is open up the mind to possibilities. Now, opening up the mind to possibilities is this task of education. My husband often says he's illiterate but uneducated. He's literate but uneducated when people ask him. Because literacy is not education. And I think what Maria Montessori has amply demonstrated is the fact that when you talk to children, please don't go with any preconceived ideas about what things should be. Go with them, learn with them, deal with their learning paces, their minds, their perceptions. Be open. And education is indeed an extremely large open process. I have had to deal with thousands of illiterate women and men in my time, in Rajasthan, outside Rajasthan, in Tamil Nadu, in Madhya Pradesh, in other states of India, sitting and talking to them about what we normally think are things they cannot understand, but they do. And I remember once Dr. Anand Lakshmi sitting here, she had come to Rajasthan, and I remember asking her, how can we who go through the Aristotelian system of logic and understand things perfectly in a certain manner, how can we, we're caught in a predicament. We cannot dismiss what people say in the villages as illogical. But at the same time, it's not my logic. What do I do? And I remember her telling me that there are many systems of logic in India, that logic is not always Aristotelian, that we don't have to go through either inductive or deductive logic only in the way it has been prescribed to arrive at conclusions. And I think that's what going through various disciplines does to our minds. It opens it up to different kinds of logic. And I think Maria Montessori understood it extremely well. She didn't want to go through a predetermined system of logic. What she wanted to do actually was to go through the logic of the child's mind, of seeing, perceiving, understanding, enjoying, and understanding the wonder of learning, which we all lose touch with as we grow older. Categories are only there for us to learn, but we get trapped within them. So I am called a social activist. So that's all I am. And I remember sitting I was traveling from Cochin to Delhi in a plane, and there was a young man who said to me, and what do you do? Are you a social activist? And I said, yes, but do I wear a badge on my shoulder saying that I'm a social activist? Oh, he said, you look like one. Which meant that I wasn't well kept, I hadn't combed my hair too well, that I was looking a bit shoddy and a little, jagged in the corners, maybe whatever. And then I said to him, but what are you? Are you part of the corporate world? And he said, yes. So we started this interesting conversation, and the entire flight we talked about preconceived ideas about each other. And I remember just about 3 months ago, I went to address information commissioners who are, well, like judges and who are senior civil servants. And I went into that hall, it was about 5 weeks ago maybe, and they said to me, but you are not aggressive. You didn't shout at us. So I said to them, when I sit on the streets in a protest against you, yes, I'll shout slogans, but I've come to this room to dialogue with you, and I don't have to shout slogans. And here, the language, the idiom I use will be different. So I think these boxes have to be got rid of. And this is a big task for all educationists and a huge challenge today, because literacy and going to colleges and schools has not got children out of these traps. If you look at India today, religious fundamentalism is not with the poor. It is not with the people who don't have anything. It's with the people who have tasted power that fundamentalism is being used and adopted as a tool to get more power. So it is understood as a tool. How do you fight those minds? How do you fight those traps? It is from those traps that you have terror that comes out. It is from those traps that you have what is happening in Gaza. It's from those traps that you had what happened in Iraq or Afghanistan or anywhere else. How do you get people out of those traps? There was this beautiful prayer we sang when we inaugurated this, of all religions. In India, thankfully, we can't ignore the fact that ours is has the single largest Muslim population after Indonesia. If India has to teach the world about Islamic democracy, it'll have to learn from India. If the world has to understand how to live together in peace, it'll have to learn from India. And it's a huge responsibility. And it's a huge responsibility which is part of our learning and educational processes. So if we look at it like that, it's a huge challenge for all of you sitting here, and for me, because we're all involved in the process of learning together. What today are the enemies of education? Not of schooling, but of education. The first thing is dogma. How do you get minds out of becoming dogmatic? How do you understand, for instance, the other? How do you understand that there are differences? How do you understand that people can be different and yet together? How do you teach people to appreciate something that is not exactly like what I would do? How do you bring in tolerance? How do you fight intolerance? And intolerance is in so many ways. I'm intolerant, and I don't think any one of us is not intolerant. And I think in all the airports in India today, you have a quotation from Gandhi. Be the difference, what is it? Become the difference you want. I don't know, I don't remember. What is it? See the difference? No, be the difference. Be the difference you want to be? Sorry? Be the change you want to be. So you have to change yourself. And this we owe to Mahatma Gandhi in a very fundamental way. Through his life, in his various experiments with truth, of what he did not say about himself, I don't know whether there's anything he didn't say about himself, either in the public forum, or through his writings, or through his autobiography. We know about all the mistakes he made, where he didn't live up to what he thought was the correct way of living. For us, it is important, therefore, somewhere, to change ourselves, and that is what education can do to a very great degree. And like all things, if one person changes, there is a multiplying effect. But how do you do it? One thing that Gandhiji also taught all of us was the immense capacity to listen. He disagreed with so many people. He disagreed with Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. He disagreed with Patel. He disagreed even with Nehru, whom he had chosen in one sense to be his successor. He disagreed with Rabindranath Tagore. He disagreed with everybody. But his disagreement was out there in the open, with arguments, and sometimes saying, yes, I'm pig-headed, but I can't change. But the point is, how do we bring this into the public domain? Today, if you look at the media, if you look at the newspapers, there is this kind of jingoism about war. I really don't think it projects what India wants. It's what the power elite want. How do we oppose this? A huge challenge for us who want proper, real processes of peace, proper, real processes of understanding, good democracy to take root. I do think that the personal is political. I'm a woman and I'm a feminist. Maria Montessori said we should get equal wages for equal work. But that's been a huge battle for us. We won it in some ways. We still haven't in other ways. So for those of us who are women, our personal is political because we are born with inequality. So we have to live with inequality. We have to fight it. No matter whether you're in Italy, France, the USA, India, if you're literate Indian, an illiterate Indian, if you're an upper class Indian or lower class Indian, you still have to fight inequality. So for people like us, the personal is political. The question is, how do you make the personal political in a manner that is significant? In a manner in which people can join you and fight with you. So where there is irrationality, one must oppose it. Where there is lack of justice, one must talk about it. Where there is violence, one must talk about peace and be the peace. Think the peace and spread the peace. And that peace can't come only when you talk about Pakistan or about war. You have to be kind when you talk about the Dalits. You have to be kind when you talk about poverty. You have to be kind and think of the ways in which we are so privileged when we talk about many things that we want to have, especially children. So we have to understand somewhere that we have to change. I remember my nephew, who was like one of you, saying to my brother that he was poor, and I couldn't believe it. Because he went to a good school in Delhi, which cost a lot of money. He had all the privileges of his own home and everything, and he said he was poor. And I said to him, on what basis do you say you're poor? And he said to me, because I don't have a car. My friends come in their cars to school, I go there on a bicycle. And there was my friend's daughter from the village with me. And she said to him, do you know that what you spend in 1 month would last me 4 years for my schooling? How can you say you're poor? Have you turned behind to look at the people who have nothing? You only look at those people who have cars. So when you have that kind of ambition, when you have that kind of false inequality, then you try and fight for things on the basis of what you perceive as inequality. But you also have to think of how much better you are than so many others. And then you will start sharing. And that sharing is very important in a country like India and in the world today, where there are so many differences. So I really think that sadhana, we've had a small discussion as to what sadhana actually means. It means many things, like most words in Sanskrit. It's complex, so it means effort. It means effort. It also means achievement. It also means meditation. But I wouldn't advise Indians especially to take a protection from a false sense of peace where we really keep ourselves away from acting or interacting or saying what we should say. And the middle class in India has really not performed its role in the last 50 years. Things we should have said, we haven't said. And because of that, India is a worse place. So peace, as Gandhi said, is not cowardice. Non-violence is not cowardice. It's the capacity to speak your mind. And when the person comes in front of you with a gun, to stand there firm and not even throw a stone at that person. That is real non-violence. That is real courage. That is peace. Not going and hiding in my home when I think that something's wrong with what people are saying. So very often nowadays, we mistake cowardice for violence. We can't afford to do that. I'm not going to talk too long. I'm going to finish now. I don't think I've solved anyone's problems. what I've been able to say as a common citizen in this country is that for democracy to work, for democracy to be real, for democracy to be a reality for children, for women, for poor Dalits, for people who are in the caste hierarchy, oppressed with untouchability, with lack of access, today's India is a grim place for all of us and for the world today, faced with an ideological debacle where the dream of a capitalist paradise has not quite happened, where the government of the United States is willing to bail out with billions and billions and billions of dollars, but not allowing the Indian government to give subsidy to its farmers, and our farmers are committing suicide. It's not allowing the government of India to allocate funds for a Rural Employment Guarantee Act, saying it's a waste of money. So for us, there is the dichotomy and the problem of the world. So for all of us, we look to education, really and truly to open our minds, to become better human beings, because there is this great dichotomy and dialectic between the individual and society. Who will start the process of reform? Will it be society or will it be the individual? And I think it's a dialectic. And in that, all of you who sit here are extremely important people. And I, as a receiver of what you do, will be a participant in that process. And I hope will always learn, as this great institution taught me to learn many, many years ago. I'll end with a quotation, which is one of my favorite quotations these days, of a man called Jeremy Cronin, who's a poet and a writer who lives in South Africa. I should and meditate about and do sadhana about for years. What does he say? He says, what is real democracy? What is real education? What is real anything? He says, it is talking truth to power. Real democracy, real education is the capacity to talk truth to power. Make power truthful and truth powerful. Thank you.
After that enlightening speech about sadhana and the changes to be brought, I would like to invite Rukmini Ramachandran, Director Training of Navadesha, Montessori Institute, and member of the Congress Committee, to present the Indian Montessori Foundation.
On a personal note, I wrote 2-3 pages and then I had to throw them away because it's very hard to capture in that moment something that really for many of us comes from our hearts. I must tell you that when we first got together to talk about the importance of the Congress, we had some conversations with AMI, and in an impulsive moment, we took the baton from Australia. And we said, we'll do it, we'll do the next Congress. And alarmingly, within 3 days, we got a reply saying, yes, you do it. So since that moment, in some late 2005, many of us have been working together in different capacities to put many ideas together. And it is, in a sense, much of what you will see here and experience here in the next few days will be a part of the deliberations that we've had and the changes that have come about through our dialogue and through our conversations. It is my privilege here with this presentation to set a context, and that's my brief. We are very, very excited to be running this Congress here at this moment of change at Army. I know that AMI is in the process of many, many beautiful changes which will take its work forward. And it is in this capacity as people from India and people who have been working in Montessori education in India that to some extent we brought forward this concept of running the Congress. And for us, what has been really special has been the idea of the fact that we would be celebrating AMI's 80th birthday. So it is 80 years of AMI, and for that I offer you Army as a senior and wise guiding force that will help us in India when we are in the process of re-evaluating who we are and trying to come together to make a difference for the child. It is also very important for us at this moment to talk about the idea of Dr. Montessori's life and work here in India. She was here from 1939 up to 1949, and these were 10 rich years in the life of the Montessori movement. So for Montessori in India, it's 70 years. So these are two very, very important commemorative, symbolic ideas that we have cherished when we have actually worked in putting together what you will be experiencing. Also, when we talked, we had believed that we would have from this Congress some permanent takeout, that it should not stop here. It should not stop with the gathering and the meeting of hearts, but that it should move forward and that it should actually, that something should come out of it. But our theme is sadhana, and our theme is reflection, reflective practice, which actually leads to a spontaneous life where it becomes so much a part of who we are that that's who we really are. And if it is this idea that we must take forward to anything that we do, we hope to create a rich and beautiful army presence in India, made up in our own color, in our own flavor, but with the wisdom that we have with history, as well as with the need to change and to move forward in a new context, not only for India but for the world. So one of the things that we are hoping to set up, it was extremely difficult to ideate this while we were preparing for the details of the Congress. As you can imagine, it has been about audiovisual aids and things breaking down, and trucks on their way, and leaf plates not yet ready, and all sorts of things that were very mundane but very, very exciting moments of sadhana as we thought about solving each and every little problems that have cropped up. However, we believe that this organization will not go forward without thinking and each other to make something possible. And it is in this context that we hope to create this organization, which we hope to call the Indian Montessori Foundation. We know that Army is restructuring and changing, and we know that the 2007 was a special year, a year commemorating the first Montessori school in 2007. We celebrated a year all over the world. We also were very privileged to have here in February an open forum meeting where much was discussed. Our president was here, Megan was here, and we brought together people who actually talked very openly and very from the heart about the things that needed to be done to take Montessori education forward with vision and with leadership. I think that the Indian AMI Montessorians have always believed that we needed a pan-Indian body that represented the country all over. It's a large country. It's a country with many different cultures and many different languages, and to feel a part of the whole has been one of our struggles, and we can criticize that struggle. We have to look at ourselves critically, as Aruna just said, and at the same time we have to also be very proud of this richness that we bring to the fabric of Montessori work, because ultimately through all the differences, the child is the universal factor that links all of us. We believe that this would help Army's global vision, but also that this organization would have its own reason for being, for looking after our local people, for looking after the needs of the local Indian children, and to actually nurture and bring together all the elements that the support that schools need and the support that training centers need, and to link people and to create something that will stand in the future. We have had a very wonderful meeting on the 15th of November, planned really around Children's Day. November 14th is Jawaharlal Nehru's birthday, and we felt it was around this date that we all met, and we talked all day about what this organization should do for our country. And we also have a list, we had some interesting discussions, and we had, because we are more, what shall I say, passionate discussions, we wish to both go forward, but also go forward. This is the vision: to enable children to reach their full potential through the principles of Montessori education, leading towards a more harmonious and peaceful world. We hope to become an AMI affiliate. We hope to expand the awareness of Montessori principles in society, nurture these principles in schools, and support the training and promote research and development in all forms of education. It is stunning to realize we have just produced a book that is due to be launched, and it is really, really wonderful to see that in 1929 there was a Montessori association which Army has actually sent us the little booklet of their objectives. And it was wonderful to see, and rather alarming to see, that those objectives are really the same objectives: to bring people together, to nurture the schools, to nurture the training, to create more awareness, to reach people, to reach parents, to reach the community. I think that Dr. Krishna Kumar, who will be here with us tomorrow, was also speaking of Gijubai Badeka, who was on our early board in the 1920s, even before Montessori came to India. And it was in these objectives that he mentions that we must nurture these principles and nurture those who offer them to children. One of the other primary objectives of this organization when we create it will be to dispel the myth that AMI membership is for people who have some form of training. We will use our biggest example, I believe, our president, who has a life of work around the child, and certainly to be a member of Army, you do not need any form of diploma. We really wish to bring to your attention that the work that the Indian Montessori Foundation will do is to link all people, particularly the people of India, to come together to think about the child and to move forward in that capacity, while retaining the work and the quality that we do in schools, and the work and the standard that we believe in for a training course. Other than that, we really would like to align ourselves, and we really have with this Congress, align ourselves to those who are working for the child. It is this vision that we will translate now into practice, and as Montessori people, we really must remember to think about it, to think carefully about how this structure will be effected, to think carefully about how to preserve the very principles that we hold dear within an organization. These principles of friendship, of peace, of truth, of working together with respect, being honorable to each other despite differences, but to yet listen to every single person who has a voice. In other words, to run as a democratic organization with friendship and with equality and with a certain space for everybody to be who they are. This is the challenge of the future. We are very clear that particularly after this Congress, we are very clear that it is hard to work alone. No one can work alone. It is teams of people that make things possible. To work with the team, to work together, to learn to work with people and know them. This will be the future challenge. To drive forward such an organization will have its own challenges, but we hope that even the 3 days will bring the great energy that is required to carry us forward into something that's solid and something that lasts. I would like to say that we will have more about both membership to Army and about the work that we will do with the Indian Montessori Foundation come up in the next few days. A lot of it is up for discussion with Army, and so we just wish to share with you that the fact that we've been thinking and thinking together. Thank you very much.
And all the Indians who believe in the Montessori principles will definitely stand by these principles and will definitely see that it will be a great success. I now would like to introduce Mr. Alexander Henney, who would be launching the book Montessori in India, 70 Years. It's my great pleasure to introduce Mr. Alexander Henney, who is not only a former board member of AMI, but also the great-grandson of Dr. Maria Montessori. We invite him to the stage to release a copy of the book Montessori in India, 70 Years, which has been specially written for release at this event. Mr. Alexander Henney will hand over the first copy to Ms. Aruna Roy. I request Mr. Alexander Henney to say a few words to mark the occasion.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I have had a very great honor to present this book to Mrs. Aruna Roy as a representative of the Montessori family. We're very proud to be here. I even brought my sister. So that means that we are very happy to be in India, because that would been a very important spot for my great-grandmother Maria Montessori. But I also want to say a few words on the book, because I had the privilege to see the book firsthand and was able to study it today. And I wanted to say that we are very, very happy that this history has been published. It has been written down, all the important facts, and it's done by knowledgeable people like Prasanna Sridevasan, Rukmi Rachmanandran, Vazamati Surinivasan, Hadian Rosh, and Govind Venkatesan. Sorry for my pronunciation, but I tried my best to do that. Just to give you a little flavor of this book, because I find it very important that you know, because maybe you want to buy it yourself. And the content is very interestingly divided up into a few chapters, like India before Montessori, 1870-1939. And that starts with is about a Theosophical Society, and Colonel Steele Olcott and Mrs. Blavatsky. It tells a lot about Annie Besant and about Mr. and Mrs. Arundel and Rukmini Devi, and about, of course, also that my great-grandmother met Gandhi. So that's the bit of the history of India education prior to Montessori, as it is explained there. And then there is a chapter about the Montessori coming to India and the period of 1939 to 1949. And that Mr. Arundel and Rukmini Devi asked Montessori to come to India, and gave their hospitality and a lot of stories about what she did in India, where she was, and so forth, and the hospitality also of the family Sarabhai. Then there is a chapter on Montessori in India, 1949-1960, which tells a lot about Gul Minwala, about Abs Joosten and Mr. Swami. And it's very informative, and I think it's most important that all these facts have been recorded. And then there are still two more chapters, the years 1960 and 1970, and the years 1980. Anyway, I feel that it's very important that this book has been published, and I was in a very happy situation that I have met in my life some of these important people here in India, like the family Sarabhais and many more, who had played such an important role. That's really all I really wanted to say, and I hope you all enjoy the book and that it will be a great success. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Dr. Silvana Quattrochi Montanaro. Dr. Silvana Quattrochi Montanaro received her degree in medicine and surgery with a specialty in psychiatry from the University of Rome. In 1955, she joined the staff of the Rome Montessori School for Assistance to Infancy, where she taught mental hygiene, child neuropsychiatry, nutrition, and obstetrics. Dr. Montanaro co-founded the Italian Medical Institute for the Study of Relaxations, Phenomena, and States of Consciousness, and serves as a trainer in respiratory autogenic training. She also worked in clinics and hospitals to prepare couples to nurture children under the age of 3. She was responsible for bringing AMI assistance to infancy training to the US. Dr. Silvana Quattrochi Montanaro has acted as Director of Training on AMI assistance to infancy courses in Houston, Denver, London, Mexico City, San Diego, and has also been the Director of Training for the AMI Assistance to Infancy courses in London and Mexico City, Rome, and Yokohama. I now welcome Dr. Montanaro to deliver the speech. She would like to garland you.
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you. My Lord, technology is very good and we become dependent on them. I had prepared the PowerPoint presentation because my English is not so good, so I said the many good quotes can be read by everyone. But now, I don't see that we could do that. So you have to stay with my bad English. I have to talk about peace and education, and we know very well how much I have to put in the mouth. All right. So, she was interested in this. First of all, I want to say I'm very happy to be here for the first time with you here today. And, ladies and gentlemen and chief guests, I want to express my gratitude to the people who made this possible for me. Mrs. Rukmini Ramachandran, the Congress Committee. Education and peace, the topic we want to face tonight, is certainly of the greatest interest for us at any level, personal, national, and as people working in Montessori education. I feel that I must let Montessori speak more than speak for her, that I cannot really substitute myself with her. I can only offer my voice for repeating many things she said so clearly and so passionately in the European capitals from 1932 to 1939 when the Second World War started. The great involvement of such an eminent educator in the problem of peace is well known to all of you. Our common meditation can be about what we can continue to do in our personal life and in our daily work. We can also try seeing if there is anything more we can apply in our personal commitment in order to reach the great but absolutely necessary goal of peace in our world. Montessori says, the war of today is not due to hate against the enemy. Who could affirm it if we fight today against one nation and tomorrow against another one? And she goes directly to the important points. In order to reach the peace in the world, we need two things. First of all, a new human being, a better human being. Second, an environment without limits for the infinite desire of this new human being. This is why Montessori affirmed the absolute necessity of a new world for a new human being. This is the pressing necessity. Her faith, I have to get out the pieces because they are not ready. I thought it was different. Sorry. So, her faith in a new world comes from the great acquisition over time, like the possibility of flying, communicating so rapidly using the spatial waves. In this new world, she envisages the new child who is predestined to conquer the infinite. And such conquests are so big that they require the cooperation of all human beings. When in September 1936, Montessori went to the European Congress for Peace in Brussels, she started her speech with a clear and strong affirmation. To avoid the conflicts is the work of politics. To build the peace is the work of education. It is urgent to understand the necessity of a collective and united effort for the construction of peace. As she clarifies that an education capable of constructing peace cannot be limited to a type of school and learning, she says, The education constructive of peace cannot be limited to the school and instruction. It is a work of universal magnitude. It needs a good development of human personality, but also an orientation towards the human finalities and the present condition of the social life. Because not only human beings are almost unknown to themselves, but they also ignore the social mechanism from which depend their interests and their immediate salvation. I think it's clear that we are exactly in this situation. We know very well the continuous efforts Montessori did in order to awake all people, but especially the ones directly responsible for educating the new generations. Let me quote from her book, The Formation of Men. With the passage of time, Montessori says, we have become even more convinced of the importance of education, and we wish to infuse new life into our endeavor, so that it may become an effective means for the reconstruction of a modern society, sadly disfigured by the ravages of this worst of all wars in history. I feel, Montessori continues, as if I was addressing a strong family which must continue along the road I have opened up, and which, young and vigorous though it be, has great need of faith and hope. Here we are today together once again, the strong family Montessori envisaged so long ago, each of us trying to continue to apply her discoveries about the greatness of the human mind in children. Montessori has been certainly pleased when neuroscientists have counted the brain cells, arriving to the conclusion of 100 billion neurons, each with the possibility of making 50,000 connections. This great panorama is strongly reduced when we consider that even the brain of the greatest human beings is used only for 2-4% of its potential. But even with such a low performance, the human brain is considered the most complex object of our galaxy. In the book Amazing Brain, the two scientists who wrote it say, there are perhaps about 100 billion neurons or nerve cells in the brain. And in a single human brain, the number of possible interconnections between these cells is greater than the number of atoms in the universe. I'm sorry you cannot read it because I said maybe they will remember these things, and going home they say, well, what I have inside, all these possibilities. The human brain, another scientist writes, is the most complete and potent computer. As peace is certainly the most favorable condition for any human development, we must conclude that when a better environment can be offered to our children, we are sure of helping their potential richness and of providing the more favorable developmental situation. Montessori says that in our work of education, we need faith and hope, but we can affirm that it is possible to have such faith and hope because today we know that the true nature of human beings is a very good one, and the children have shown it to us. I have the privilege to work with very, very young children. I do the 0 to 3. And in the many years I have been in contact with them, there are 2 or 3 things really moving that I always see everywhere. And one is that once they know you and you approach them when they are eating and you say, is it good? Mm-hmm. They don't speak yet, many of them. Yes, may I have some? They get it out of the mouth. And of course I eat it. So, but this is really and another thing that is always so moving is that crawling children, which means not yet walking, not yet 12, 14 months old, if they see a piece of material on the floor that another child left, crawling, they pick it up and bring it back to the place. So we know, because we stay there with them, that we are good-natured and we can do very good things. Montessori education, you know very well, it's based on the preparation of the right environment for the development of human personality. It is this personality we wish to help since the first moment, and this help is generally called education. What should come out in this is the great inner potential each of us brings into life at birth. Because the billion of neurons we were talking about are all in place 2 months before birth. So the newborn says all of them ready to work. These neurons are only waiting for the right environment in order to manifest their potential. This special condition belongs to all human beings. We all start by being children, and we all grow from childhood to manhood or womanhood, Montessori says, without changing the unity of our person. So we must conceive a principle of education that has regard to all stages. And she underlines also that the development of the human being, especially during the first 2 years of life, is a veritable miracle of creation. It's impressive, a veritable miracle. This miracle, ignored for thousands and thousands of years, must be known in order to provide the right condition for the miracle to happen. So Montessori gives us ideas and says the basis of the reform of education and society, which is a necessity of our times, must be built upon the scientific study of man, the unknown. And now we know in the last decades how much neuroscientists have gone exactly in this direction, studying the human mind, the psychology. And Montessori continues, it is therefore possible to conceive a universal movement for human reconstruction, which follows a single path. Its sole aim is to help man to preserve his balance, his psychic health, and build up a secure orientation in the present conditions of our world. This movement is not limited to any particular political trend, because it aims at the simple realization of human values, and that is what is of primary interest over and above all political or national differences. So education now becomes a social and human endeavor of interest to all, and needs, in order to actualize all these, 2 things. 3 really, she says. A pedagogy following the guidance of psychology that she called psychopedagogy. A clear understanding of our civilization, and then a syllabus which can give an understanding of the condition of the human being in modern society, with the cosmic vision of history and of the evolution of the human life. It is of great interest to underline the strong preoccupation of Montessori in providing this new educational program, because it is clear that without the cosmic frame of reference, all educational strategies will not be able to modify the millennia of human wrongs. She asks us to consider the young child not the son of the human being, but the creator and father of the human being, with the work as his fundamental instinct and as the way of healing all defects. So this human being shows also other extraordinary qualities. A type of love which is not attachment, a discipline that is not submission, a possibility of relating to reality which is not just imagination. This child, this human child, gives us a great light and shows us a new human being whose love for the environment is the secret of all human progress and of our social evolution. This love produces an intelligent activity, the human work in every civilization. We know by long personal experience that what we call our normalized children are always joyfully active, contributing to their personal and cosmic evolution. It is maybe useful to remember briefly how, since the end of the World War II, the necessity of peace as the only possible situation for survival and development of any kind of life came clearly to the attention of all people responsible for decision in their countries, and these people tried to prevent the possibility of another conflict, establishing what it has been called the United Nations. In November 1988, at the international conference there, they adopted a resolution regarding the rights of man and the culture of peace, reaffirming the commitment to contribute to all the social undertaken within the framework of the year 2000 and proclaim this year the year of peace. But soon it was clear that that was not enough 1 year. So they proclaimed 2001 to 2010 the decade, international decade for a culture of peace and non-violence for the children of the world. We are still in this decade because we are just at the beginning of 2009. So we have this year and the next year still part of this decade for peace. So going back to our working place, I hope that we can try to participate in a practical way to these international efforts. The children we take care of can be involved and sensitized according to their ages. What is really important, I think, it is to increase the consciousness of this important problem so that appropriate activities can come into being. We know very well, and we are profoundly convinced of what Montessori told in Copenhagen in 1937. She said, "Education is the weapon of peace." Education is our working field, the place where we try to prepare for children an environment where a peaceful and productive life is possible. All of us have witnessed these results, so now we know well that human beings are born with not only the great potential, but they want to do the good, and they can become peaceful people. Recently, neurocardiology has discovered in the human heart a neural structure which should work in accordance with the 4 brains in our head. The 4 brains that now, of course, I cannot explain, are the ones evolution produced in living beings, one after the other, during the process of evolution. But this recently one is a 5th, and which can give us, the human beings, a new evolutionary possibility that transcends violence and creates a new reality. We have great models for this: the Buddha, Jesus, Lao Tzu, Krishna, Eckhart, and many more. Since when Montessori was going around the European capitals, speaking in favor of peace, we have received from her enduring effort many good suggestions and advice for reaching this great end. Already in Geneva in 1932, she denounced the fact that such a terrible human phenomenon like the war seems to be accepted by everyone as something unavoidable, and no real effort is done for trying to understand its hidden motivations. She says, in the history of humanity, we call peace the forced adaptation of the dominated people who lost everything during the war and remain victim of the disaster. And she continues, the real peace is the triumph of justice and love between human beings. And it is inside the human psyche that we have to look in order to find the source of such disaster that we call war, because Montessori talks of an unknown chapter of human psychology. Having time, we could quote something by Freud, but wouldn't go well. So the war is not caused by arms, Montessori says, but by wrong things we have in the head. So it is up to the human beings to decide their destiny. And if they will be able to let the arms fall down of their hands, in that moment, a splendid day will start for all humanity. It would be impossible to conclude this address without remembering and giving voice to one of the greatest 20th century's apostle of peace, the Mahatma Gandhi, especially in his own country. He says, I own that I have an immortal faith in God and His goodness, and an inconsumable passion for truth and love. But is that not what every person has latent in him? I remain an optimist, Gandhi continues. Not that there is any evidence that I can give that the right is going to prosper, but because of my unflinching faith that right must prosper in the end. Our inspiration can come only from our peace, because we know very well that the children are the only human beings capable of renewing humanity. And then I want to quote something Montessori said in Bruxelles in September 1936. We all form just one organism, a unique nation. This unique nation, which has been the unconscious psychological and religious aspiration of the human soul, Montessori continues, we can proclaim with the cry arriving from one side to the other of the earth. Now it's finally reached. The humanity as an organism is born, she says. This superconstruction that absorbed all the efforts of the human beings since their origin has been realized. We live in it. We have a proof in these almost miraculous powers which put today the human beings above their nature. We can fly higher and surer than the eagles. We have available the invisible secret energy of the universe. We can look in the infinity of the skies, and we can collect the vibration of all the music of the world. The human beings, we have the secrets capable of transforming the matter. In the end, the human beings of today, Montessori proclaims, are the citizens of the great nation of the humanity. It is absurd to think that such a human being, endowed with powers superior to nature, can be Indian, French, English, or Italian. He is the new citizen of the new world. The war, this one. He is the citizen of the universe. So I think we have to take seriously what Montessori said and try to put ourselves in this frame of reference of the universe. We are citizens of the universe. Fathers and teachers forget to pronounce the words which were the cornerstone of education, she says in the Education and Peace. This cornerstone of the past education were that we have to announce to the children that we are all brothers. It was August 37 in Copenhagen when Montessori said, "The true fundamental problem is to heal the humanity and to orient the development of human individuality according to the grand concept of the human being as the king of the universe." This human being, king of the universe, she says, king of earth and sky, king of visible things and of invisible energies, this is the human being who must reign. His kingdom is doubtless all the earth, but the real kingdom is the one he brings inside himself. So we can conclude that today the importance of education is immense because we have more than we realize. Montessori says we have everything. We must be able to give a value to what we have and to enjoy it. We need a blow of universality that accompanies the human beings until death. The human being so prepared, conscious of their cosmic mission, these special human beings will be able to build the new world of peace. But I see that there is a piece missing because it was talking of the party of the child, something I was very interested to present to you because this is something that we can easily do for ourselves. Yes, we skipped a piece, I'm sorry, because it wasn't supposed to be like this. Montessori, in one of her, in a part of the book Education and Peace, says, today's war is not made of hate towards the enemy, because we fight today against one enemy, and tomorrow we must, tomorrow we will become allied with the enemy of yesterday. But at a certain point, she talks of how nothing can be obtained in the adult world if we don't work, of course, first in the child's world. And Montessori asks for the minister of infancy in every country, also of a children representative in every parliament. She sees also the great necessity for the party of the child. And at the Copenhagen International Montessori Congress in August 37, she gives very precise reasons and guidelines for this social party of the child. She says, first of all, is recognition of the dignity of children and young people. It is the duty of the parents to defend the rights of children, because children are not thrown on earth by nature. They have been entrusted to a father and a mother with the mission of love. And Montessori sees the social party of the child as a great possibility for preventing many wrongs present in our society and as an action for the collaboration of all humanity. So I was thinking, coming here in the long hours of the airplane from London, that we maybe can see how this could be realized, this dream of Montessori, to have in the different countries where especially Montessori education is so active, to have the social party of the child. And I thought of myself that I will go and check how you can make in a country a social party. I mean, there must be certainly something. I can, this is, I go back to the Mahatma Gandhi says, I own that I have an immovable faith in God and His goodness, maybe I already read it, I'm sorry, then I repeat. I remain an optimist. Not that there is any, yes, this I have been reading, but then there is only, I'm sorry, it was all so many days of putting it together in the right way. So let me find the last pieces. So it's a great humiliation to have prepared for a long time all this, but we must accept humiliation in life. What can we do? In any case, I think that I can close with some words of Montessori which are so strong. The real peace is the triumph of justice and love between human beings. I think that if we can realize in our place this party of the child, which of course has as its main duty this of a peaceful environment for children, I think that we are giving Montessori great satisfaction. And I think that this event is most favorable for spreading it. Thank you very much.